Hey, what's up, guys? So, I don't know if I'm going to release this video or not. I just need to talk to somebody about this right now. I'm on 2.5 weeks. Almost 2 weeks. Jeez. Almost 2 weeks without nicotine. As some of you know, I vape pretty regularly, and I don't really talk about it, but every now and then I would get this fear about what vaping was doing for me, what it was doing to me. And I have attempted to quit a couple of times, and I went for a time. I mean, just before I went for my summer tour in 2018, I stopped for about a week and then realized that I was just way too stressed to get everything I needed to do done. So I got back to it. And every now and then I just got a little bit afraid. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather died of lung cancer, and although there's, certainly less chance of me getting lung cancer with vaping than with smoking cigarettes, that concern kind of sat around there for me. And a further concern was that I understand that I'm going to die. And I also understand that I'm either going to die somewhat spontaneously, or I'm going to die when I'm much older as health concerns progress along with aging, and it'll be how I chose to live my life now that will contribute, if not define, what those health issues would be. And in my mind, I have this fear of getting to a certain point in my life as I'm aging, and every breath feeling like the effort equivalent of standing up and sitting down again. And that really concerned me. And maybe vaping wouldn't be an issue. Maybe it's not. But that still sat there for me. When I was growing up, I had a lot of lung issues. I had asthma, which I was hospitalized for several times. I had croup, which is a type of serious cough that children get. So my lungs aren't really like super jazzed on just normal functioning, let alone functioning plus nicotine. But anyways, I had this experience of this pain in my chest. And I know it was because the vapor that I was using was from a machine that was producing a giant fucking cloud. And my bronchial tubes were just irritated, but the pain bothered me. And a couple weeks back, I smoked some Changa, which is a DMT smoking blend. And I haven't really spoken to anybody about it, honestly. But one of the first things that was happening is that Changa showed me that pain. It brought me right there and said, do you see this? Right now, this is pain. But if you don't change, in 50 years, that pain right there is cancer. And that kind of freaked me out. I mean, but here's the thing, is that the Changa showed it to me and then said, don't worry. You don't have to dwell there. You just need to stop. And then it gave me this vision of me just stopping. There was no stress. There was no big calamity. It was just like, see, here's what it's like for you to just not. And then I didn't. And I still haven't. But recently I've really been struggling where my ADHD symptoms are just through the roof. I can't focus on anything. I can't seem to get anything done. I'm like constantly distracted and tired, and then that's like cycling into this shame and guilt about not doing my work properly, or I'm catastrophizing where it's like, oh, I didn't do my emails today, or I didn't read for 1 hour, or whatever it is. I'm not reading my research materials, and so that's going to mean this, which is going to mean this, which is going to mean that, which is going to mean your career is going to fail and you're going to die, cold and lonely in a ditch or whatever. My brain sometimes goes there. I'm cautious not to let it control me, but the shame and guilt cycle is there, and it's really tough today. And one solution is to just vape. Like, they're right here. Like, they're right in my drawer, just over there. But then I also don't want to do that. I'm struggling right now. Yeah. I'm wondering about whether or not if I take a supplement to support my acetylcholine function, if that'll help, which I'm going to try here in a moment. And I just wanted to tell this to somebody, whether or not I release this video. It feels good to have shared it. And if I do release it and you're listening now, if you've got some, I'm gonna follow up what you're hearing right now with some sort of update, because I'm not likely to release this anytime soon, and let you know how things went. Because the nicotine addiction that came with vaping was difficult. From the sensation of vaping, feeling good generally, and it feeling really cool to breathe like a fucking dragon, and plus it tasted so great, like sweet and delicious donuts or biscuits or fucking margaritas, whatever. And also the nicotine. And it's tough. I hope that you're getting something from this listening. And if you have some advice for me, please comment in it down below, depending on what you hear me say right after this. Because right now, I'm going to update you. Right now. Hey, so it has now been just about 2 months since the last time I had nicotine. In that last video, or in the first part of this video, I was hurting pretty bad. I really wanted nicotine, as you could tell. But I didn't want it. You know, I was distressed basically about this deep desire to continue on and not have any nicotine, coming in conflict with what felt like a physiological and psychological necessity of nicotine in my body in order to function, essentially. And those issues with my ADHD and even with my mood, I wasn't particularly, easily agitated, but I was just generally down for a while. That took about, I'd say, another week or so after the point in that video. So about 3 weeks in, that really started to lessen. And for the most part, I don't notice any significant issues anymore, insofar as my ADHD that would lead me to feel as though I need nicotine. In fact, I actually feel really good, functioning very well without it. Like maybe better than I functioned with it, because I don't end up staying out or staying up late and just laying around on the couch, just like huffing on nicotine from 9 p.m. till 12 and dysregulating my sleeping. But yeah, generally I feel like I'm functioning, very well without nicotine. There has been a strange experience for me of feeling like something's missing, and it is nicotine. It's almost like I miss vaping the way I would miss a friend that I can't call anymore, because we have some sort of issue or whatever. I mean, maybe it's a weird metaphor, but I feel like I've lost a friend in some way, but it's a friend who's always there, but I know that it's not healthy for us to interact with each other. So that's there. And it's almost like every new thing I have done that I one time included nicotine in, I have to learn how to do again without nicotine. So reading, video editing, loving R&B music, watching TV late at night, finishing a meal, one that has not gone away. Like all of those things now, I do them without nicotine, without vaping, no problem. One that I still miss regularly, pretty much every morning that I start with a coffee, is sitting down with my coffee and my vape rig and basically huffing on donuts or sweet biscuits alongside my coffee. I didn't tell anyone that I had stopped vaping for a few weeks, and I didn't because I didn't want my neural system to register accomplishment before I actually accomplished that thing. I didn't want to tell people, oh, I stopped vaping 3 days ago, and then, keep getting congratulations, 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 until, my nervous system and my mind starts to associate that I've already quit, and maybe to soften my resiliency, or soften my resistance to picking it back up again. And it wasn't until about a month in that I started telling people. And the first person I told had an incredible, like, they responded in an incredible way. And I didn't say anything about the don't congratulate, blah, blah, blah. What they said was, I just said, hey, have you noticed that I haven't been vaping? And they responded with surprise. They're like, holy crap, I didn't notice, but now it's obvious that you weren't vaping. And it kind of came from this place of her basically being like, why would she notice that I'm not vaping? Because me not vaping seems more like me than vaping. So it was almost like, um, I don't really know what a good comparison is. Maybe you already understand it. But what she followed up with is that she also noticed, now that it was brought to her awareness, that something about me felt better. Something about the way I was present with her was different in a positive way. She reinforced that it wasn't negative before, but that it is especially positive now. And that was a really great thing to hear. It was like, before I got congratulated, I got reinforced on the positive outcomes of my decision to remove vaping from my life on the people around me and the people that I care about. So that felt really positive. One thing that I wondered about that is a term called, is not a term, a concept called biological rudeness. Biological rudeness is rooted in this idea that our nervous systems are hardwired, or we'll say soft-wired, to co-regulate with each other, and that social interaction, social engagement with each other is an essential thing for us to have. And when we feel out of sync with each other, there's a nervous system response of defense. If you've ever heard of the still face experiment, they did this experiment, or they continue to do it still, where they have a mother and a baby interacting, and the baby's like making these facial movements, the mother's making the facial movements, engaging with the baby. Any of you who have kids know about this, where you're like, oh, hello, goo goo gaga. Well, I don't recommend you make baby talk or whatever, but you know what I mean. And then the mother gets a cue in her ear, says stop, stop. She goes flat face. The baby gets really distressed eventually, like pretty quickly. And then she gets a cue, okay, engage again, the baby calms down. It's because the part of our nervous system that enables for co-regulation and to feel safe is actually wired into the way our facial muscles act, the striated muscles of the face. And so that when we're looking into each other's eyes and we're both there with each other, and we're like, reciprocating and synchronizing our facial expressions, we feel like we let a person in, they let us in, we feel close and safe with them, and then we co-regulate through different forms of engagement, such as a conversation. So the biological rudeness is when we break that co-regulation in some way, where, for example, someone checks their phone in the middle of in the middle of a conversation, or just like tunes out and starts looking somewhere else. The biology goes, wait a minute, I just lost safe connection, and it launches some sort of like, whoa. And then we feel that sensation. We often then manifest some sort of story, project some sort of story onto the scenario or onto the person or onto ourselves, and we get into these unfortunate, bullshit interactions that might be resolved very quickly with a, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, I noticed you're looking away, and not taking it personally or making up all these fantastical stories about, our worth or that person's intentions or whatever it is. But that's what biological rudeness is. So when I vape, it's a moment, it's almost like checking the phone. It's like a moment where I'm no longer engaged with that person, even if it's just for a moment, just to breathe, because in that moment I become intimately connected with the primary experience of vaping before I come back to that person, even if I'm still listening. And I wonder if what my friend noticed at that time is that I was more present because I was taking less micro breaks from reciprocity with each other, and that felt better because it was like the safe connection of social engagement was more sustained rather than these micro breaks. But anyways, that's kind of a sad tangent, side tangent about biological rudeness. Vaping. I am really glad that I stopped vaping. And the pain in my chest that I mentioned at the beginning of this video went away pretty quickly. And when I think about the rest of my life, I mean, there's lots of different things that I could probably change that would positively impact my health and longevity. And I'm slowly in the process of figuring those things out and embodying them and living them. But I think the decision to move away from vaping was a good one. Caveat, actually, because the thing is, I don't think that my story of quitting vaping or quitting nicotine in that sense, I don't see why it would be particularly helpful for you, because I was in this really unique situation. I only vaped a 3 milligram. Mind you, addiction is usually generated by the repetition or the frequency of dopamine response rather than the intensity. So it's like the more often you do a thing, such as, like seek reward, seek reward, seek reward, will have a greater tendency to develop addiction than if you do one big thing seeking reward, less and less time. But I was only having a 3 milligram. So the actual response, like neural and physiological response of going through the withdrawal, is probably not as strong as most people. And it was weird because, I said in the beginning, the Changa, it just said, just stop, look, this is what it looks like to just stop. Isn't that easy? I'm like, oh shit, that is easy. So I just stopped. But it wasn't as easy as just stop. Like, I still wanted it regularly. Like I said, I struggled through all these issues, like in the beginning of the video here. But for the most part, it did kind of just feel like just stopping. And maybe for you, a psychedelic experience will awaken that. I know that, with the research on psilocybin and smoking cessation, they say that the people who respond really positively to, no longer smoking, essentially, say something like, they say that there was something realization that they had that really changed things that, objectively seems quite trite, like, I realized that I like breathing air, or I realized that smoke harms my lungs. Maybe a psychedelic experience will make some sort of really simple but like profoundly meaningful revelation to ease for you. But I think the advice of, it's easy, look, you just don't do it, is only good advice coming from a psychedelic plant or fungi or, alchemical blend in the case of Changa. And so I'm not sure if that's really helpful for you, but I will say that the act of removing vaping from my life for now, I don't know what's going to happen. That's another reason, jumping back, why I didn't want to tell too many people, because I didn't want to make this bubble of shame just waiting for me in case I had failed. I didn't want that, like, oh yeah, I did the thing. Oh, congratulations. Yeah, sweet. And then I vape, and now I'm vaping again, and now I feel like a failure, right? So that, I didn't want that to happen, because I know that is how I would feel if that happened. But anyways, just stopping is what the Changa told me, and I didn't want to dishonor the Changa, because I was doing it regularly at that point, and I didn't want to go back and it be like, damn it, I already told you to stop vaping, and you didn't listen. Here's a much more difficult lesson, But it has positively impacted my life in a really good way, and it was very difficult at first, neurologically, psychologically, insofar as my workflow and my ADHD, but that has really calmed down a lot for me. And I would like at some point in time to be able to go back to nicotine in a different way, to periodically say, yeah, okay, I'll have a vape cloud, or to be able to have mapacho, maybe an ayahuasca ceremony, or just a mapacho ceremony, or to roll a beautiful tobacco in a prayer type, meaningful, ritualistic container that appropriately situates that use in a revering way, and so that it does not dilute in meaning and find itself spread loosely across my entire life in a dysfunctional way. I would like to get there. Maybe I won't. Maybe that's just like the last inklings of nicotine addiction, just trying to hang in there, or maybe that's my compensational mechanism for those last inklings of addiction, saying, don't worry, one day you could, maybe we might. But that's it. Thanks for listening, and I hope that you, despite the fact that my story seems extremely unique and possibly is not very applicable for you, that you got something in there that was applicable and positive. And at the very least, I want to just thank you for witnessing me in this journey, and for not shaming or judging me in case at some point things get rough and I end up back on the cloud chasing agenda. I'd also like to maybe offer up the comments as a place for people to talk about their journey of quitting nicotine, either because you want to or you did, offering advice to each other, offering perspective, offering challenges. This is really why I like doing these things, is to create a reference point and a platform to have discussions about things. For example, have you had a psychedelic experience that helped you quit smoking, and how or why, or vaping or whatever? And of course, this podcast or YouTube channel is brought to you by my patrons on Patreon, so thank you for that. And you can support this channel by going to Patreon, or by buying a t-shirt. I just got new t-shirts, or by just sending me some PayPal, or by liking it and sharing it, and all the rest. So thanks, and see you soon.